want to start with this morning, Simon.
Yes.
Jude Bellingham.
Yes.
I was very fortunate to meet Jude some years back when he played for Birmingham City, and they played down the road at the Den against Millwall. And that night, Jude, at the age of 16, absolutely wowed the fans. Even the Millwall fans were off their seats applauding him. So now we know he's done big things, having gone to Borussia Dortmund. Is Jude Bellingham, do you think, Simon, set to be the next big summer transfer saga? I think he might be. I think he might find himself at the centre of a real tug of war.
Possibly. I mean, don't forget, he's got 2 years left on his contract. So that puts the team that he's playing for, Dortmund, in a little bit more control of their destiny. And it depends how much people are prepared to pay for him. He is a very good player. He's a long way from the finished product, but he's a very good player. And if his trajectory continues the way it's going, then he's going to be a top player. We must manage the expectation. We must not overburden him with expectations of being the saviour of the World Cup and so on and so forth, that people will start to say that he may well be. But quite frankly, he's a very good player. He's an athletic, capable player. As playing in a German league, which isn't as competitive as the Premier League, but notwithstanding, it's still an elite league. And of course, that the argument will then expand on to why are we selling our players to the Germans for them to economically benefit from it?
Well, that's right.
Well, you have to look at the people that sold him to him in the first place, right? Which is Birmingham City, which were a championship football club that got an inordinate amount of money for the player at that stage in his career. I think they got £30 million, which was a very significant amount of money for a championship club to have.
Yeah.
They may well have a big sell-on top of this that may give them some money backwards. And of course, you've got to look at the landscape of players that come out of this country that go and play in German football, like Jadon Sancho and other people, and what their opportunities might have existed and looked like in the framework of going to a big club at 16, 17 years of age. So you can run the argument that we're benefiting the other countries around the world. Of course, these same countries that are complaining that we've broken the transfer system and we've broken the transfer market and the power of the Premier League is a corrupting force, whilst we simultaneously give them inordinate amounts of money to buy their players. But in this instance, Jadon Sancho couldn't see a pathway. Man City didn't want Jadon Sancho gone. The player himself couldn't see a pathway. And we're now getting to a stage where 16, 17-year-olds need to be assured of a pathway before they consider their future.
Exactly. And he got that pathway by going to Borussia Dortmund.
And so we could say that someone else helped develop our player. So which argument do you want to run? The argument do you want to run that you're never, the boy's going to sit in your development squads and perhaps not develop at the same rate, and the national team are going to lose out as a result of it, or someone somewhere is going to pay a few quid over the odds to get him back from someone else that developed him in Germany.
Well, that's right. So now where are we at? In the summer, Bellingham will have 2 years left, as you rightly say, Simon, on his contract. At 19, he's been valued at 130 million quid. But he was a standout, Simon. On that night I mentioned, just down the road at Millwall, I spoke to him post-match. This was when Jude was 16, remember. But even then, there was no doubting that he knew exactly what was going to be required of him.
You've always got to try and impress and keep your place in the team, because at the end of the day, experience is something that managers look for, and if you can't offer that, then you have to give everything else. If you apply yourself, you've got the ability, then you just got to show it, and that's the only pressure you've got on yourself. Not about trying to compete with the older lads, just being as best as you can be.
What do you hope to achieve in the game? Obviously, this is very, very early for you at the moment. You're 16, but you must have huge aspirations.
Yeah, obviously, I think you've got to dream big, haven't you? So, and any kid's dream is to play at the top and make an impact and, you know, have an effect on the game, like leave a legacy. So that's what I'll try and do.
Try and do. He's doing it. Even then, Simon, he knew what was required.
Well, I think, you know, without wanting to say that other people don't have similar backgrounds, should not have the same attitude, I think if you look at the family structure around Jude Bellingham, his father looks after him. His father's a police officer and comes from a background of probably a bit of discipline and a bit of respect for society. And so Jude Bellingham has been brought up with an outlook and disposition that knows he's got talent, that knows he's got an innate opportunity and a humongous opportunity to set himself up for the rest of his life, probably in about 2 seasons. And he wants to be a top footballer at 16 years of age. He spoke. He didn't sound like a 16-year-old, did he?
No.
Or some of the 16-year-olds that we have the misfortune of encountering in society sometimes. He sounded like a bright, well-adjusted young man that knows where he wants to go. All he's got to do is be guided properly. His dad decided, I think he and his father, without speaking for them, had various discussions with Manchester United, didn't they? They got shown around at Man United and they decided, from a footballing standpoint, not necessarily a financial standpoint, and they would have come into the play as well, but from a footballing standpoint, this young man's development was better served playing in a Bundesliga club that would be playing in Europe, that would give him an opportunity to play first-team football rather than go from Birmingham as a 16-year-old prodigy, super kid, into a big club and wait for his time to be developed. They think there was a different trajectory or different direction.
And they were
of travel.
right to think that,
and
as it turns out.
They have proven to be right because they've made decisions not based upon some imbecile agent looking to profit or monetize a situation, but looking at a football decision.
Exactly. And now it's reported that Chelsea have joined the race to sign him. Todd Bowley keen to continue pursuing his policy of signing the best young prospects. This is what he seems to be about. But a healthy, eye-catching World Cup will do Jude Bellingham absolutely no harm whatsoever.
And also a World Cup where he perhaps doesn't do as well as people think won't do him that much harm either.
Yeah.
Because we need to manage people's expectations. But I think he'll excel in the World Cup as and when he plays. But I also think that there is a feeling in my mind that Chelsea are going to be used by certain sections of the football mafia to suggest that they're in for everybody. Because Todd Bowley's a mug, right? He's this silly yank that comes over, flaps his gum, doesn't know what he's talking about. He's going to write checks out left, right, and centre. So it's a bit like the Chinese situation. Whenever a football player was potentially not happy with his contract, China was being indexed to them. Oh, the Chinese will come along and take him. And I think Chelsea are going to be used to potentially leverage up prices, create interest and enhance demand for players by saying, Chelsea are in for him.
Yeah.
Because everything Bowley does means there's going to be an extra naught on the end of it in people's mind.
Okay. Jude Bellingham, I think, set to be the next big summer transfer saga. And, of course, very important spell ahead for Jude and the England boys in general. But for Jude in particular, a healthy World Cup campaign, and who knows what his value will be
Birmingham got a big
when he comes back from Qatar. What would they get if you'd done that deal? And he goes for 28 to 30 million to Dortmund. What would you have insisted?
Well, you would try and get as much as you possibly can, but don't forget Birmingham would have got top money for the player. 30 million quid for a 16-year-old. They probably would have been told by Dortmund, oh, hold on a second, you're getting top money at the front end. You don't get it at the back end as well. If they're lucky and they've done their business properly, they might get 15%. If they've got 15% of the net difference between 130 million, they get another 15 million, don't they?
It's all right, isn't it?
Not bad work.
Yeah. Just after 10:15 this Thursday morning, a lot to get through. We're just the boys to do it. Stay with us all the way through until 1.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.